The Detroit Lions just made an absolute statement on Monday Night Football. Despite the injuries, despite the adversity, despite the opponent, despite everything seemingly working against the Detroit Lions up into that game, the Detroit Lions find a way not only to beat the 5-1 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but to dominate the 5-1 Tampa Bay Buccaneers, to take a secondary with backups across the board at every single starting position on the night and hold an MVP caliber quarterback with very good wide receivers to start the game to just 228 yards and 9 points. The Lions allowed one singular touchdown last night. They allowed 9 points on the day, and that was with mostly backups. It was maybe one of, if not the most impressive single game defensive performance I have ever seen from the Detroit Lions. And I know I said a very similar thing a few weeks ago against Baltimore, but truly, this was maybe the most impressive defensive game I have ever seen. From a coaching standpoint in Detroit to a just players stepping up standpoint in Detroit, this was fantastic. You had players like Nick Whiteside posting a 90.8 Pro Football Focus grade with 3 passes defended. You had Rocky Sin with 2 passes defended on the night. You had guys like Arthur Millette, who had an interception on the night after being with Detroit for less than 2 weeks. This was a game where everybody stepped up. Everybody showed that they had something to prove. And the Lions walked away, maybe not with the most inspiring offensive performance, but to put up 24 points against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers is not bad for an NFL offense, and to allow just 9 points to an MVP caliber quarterback in Baker Mayfield is so incredibly impressive. Baker Mayfield completed just over 50% of his passes on the night. He went 28 for 50, 228 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, while being sacked 4 times and having a QBR of just 23.7. Now, on top of that, the Detroit Lions also played very well in the run game. Aleem McNeil made his presence felt on that defensive line, and they allowed just 41 rushing yards on 12 carries on the night. Obviously, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were losing. They didn't have the opportunity to run the ball a ton, but they were only averaging 3.4 yards per carry on the night. So it's not as though that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers were running the ball efficiently. They just didn't run it often, like maybe we saw last year a couple of games against the Detroit Lions. They just didn't run the ball well at all, point blank, period. Now, Cade Otton had a good night at tight end. It continues to be a theme against the Detroit Lions safeties, whether it's Joseph, whether it's Branch, whether it's Harper, whether it's, whoever's out there. Tight ends seem to have a good day. Mark Andrews had a very good day, and now, of course, Cade Otton had a very good day. Tucker Kraft had a very good day against Detroit. They just give up yards and touchdowns to tight ends like it's nothing. He had 7 receptions for 65 yards. Tez Johnson had 4 for 58, as did Emeka Egbuka. Sterling Shepard had 7 for 25, had a lot of receptions, but didn't make a ton of impact. And outside of that, the passing attack wasn't great. Outside of that one screen pass that went for a touchdown and a couple Cade Otton first downs, the passing attack for Tampa Bay really didn't do a whole lot. Really wasn't that impressive of a unit, of a performance, and they really didn't play that strong of a football game when you really consider how good this team has been over the last couple of weeks, and especially how good they've been over the entirety of the 2025 season. Excuse the train if you can hear it. Jared Goff was very good in this game. A lot of people are going to knock him for not playing his best football, but he was still 20 for 29, 241 yards, 1 touchdown to 1 interception. He was sacked 4 times, which is not great. Of course, Todd Bowles, that blitzing defense, got to him a couple times when he wasn't quite prepared for it, but Jared Goff did enough. Jahmyr Gibbs went 17 carries for 136 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. David Montgomery didn't have a great day, 13 carries for 21 yards, but did get involved in the passing game a little bit. St. Brown led the team with 6 receptions, 86 yards, and a touchdown. Jahmyr Gibbs, 3 receptions, 82 yards. Brock Wright, 3 receptions, 23. David Montgomery, 2 for 18, and a couple of other receptions to go along with it. Now, that being said, Jared Goff was not great. He did throw an interception. He did lose a fumble to the Tampa Bay defense, and it was not fantastic. But again, to put up 24 points in a game is not bad for the Detroit Lions offense. It is higher than they scored the last time they played Tampa Bay. It is higher the last time in 2023 when they played Tampa Bay on the road in the regular season. This was probably the most complete performance we have ever seen against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over the last 2 to 3 seasons. And again, what has been kind of a fun, unique, out-of-division rivalry for the Detroit Lions and Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the Lions win this chapter of said rivalry. But the story coming out of this game was the defense. The story that you can tell from this matchup was the Detroit Lions defense stepped up massively. Eric Hallett at safety had 8 tackles on the day and played very, very well. Jack Campbell played very well. Arthur Millette had 1 pass defended and an interception and just played really, really good coverage. Derek Barnes had multiple passes defended. Anzalone had a couple massive tackles. Rocky Sin had 2 passes defended. Amik Robertson had a forced fumble and a pass defended. You go down the road. Nick Whiteside had 3 passes defended and could have had an interception in the red zone. I mean, Aidan Hutchinson had a pass defended. Lauren Strickland had a pass defended. Like, there were so many players that you would not have even known coming into this game that just played so well for the Detroit Lions. And it wasn't just in the back end, right? You had some players that were getting sacks, that were getting to the quarterback that don't typically do it. Derek Barnes had a sack. Tyrus Wheat had a sack and a half in this game. I mean, they got to the quarterback. Jack Campbell had a sack in this game. They walked away with 4 sacks on the day, and that's without Aidan Hutchinson or Al-Qaeda Muhammad or Aleem McNeil getting to the quarterback. That's how good this defense played as a unit, not just relying on their stars, not just relying on a couple of players to make impact plays. They played fantastic, and actually AQM did get half a sack on Baker Mayfield as well. He was just a little lower down on the roster. But I mean, they played very, very well in this game. You take a look, moving over to some of the team statistics on the night, and despite the score only being a 15-point difference, I think it's pretty easy and clear to say that the Lions dominated this game. They truly dominated this game from start to finish. They had more first downs. They were more efficient technically on 3rd down. They were more efficient on 4th down. They had more total yards. They had more passing yards. They had more rushing yards. They had the same amount of sacks, but that's, not a huge deal when you're getting some chunk plays like the Detroit Lions. I mean, you were the same amount of penalties, which isn't great. 6 penalties isn't great, but you didn't lose the turnover battle. You didn't lose the penalty battle. You won time of possession. You passed for more yards. You rushed for more yards. You were more efficient on 3rd down. You were more efficient on 4th down. This was the most dominant, close game I think the Lions could have potentially played. And again, let's not take that for granted, right? The Detroit Lions played a very good game. They played a strong, a competitive, a close, a just very strong game, a strong performance from pretty much everybody around. And even the players who didn't feel like they were making an impact. Jameson Williams played an impact. Jared Goff didn't feel like he had the best game. He played an impact. David Montgomery didn't feel like he played the best game. He made an impact. And every single player on this team gave their heart and their soul last night to beat maybe the best team in football, maybe the hottest team in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the National Football League. And the Detroit Lions just went on primetime and beat them by 15 points, despite having backups in the secondary, backups at safety, backups at cornerback, despite having to rely on backup edge rushers, despite having some offensive woes that didn't really clear up till the end of the game. This team played a full, complete team game, and they walked away with, I think, their most impressive victory of the season. They now go into the bye week where they will welcome back Terrion Arnold, they will welcome back Kirby Joseph, they will welcome back Avonte Maddox, Brian Branch, potentially a few other players down the road with DJ Reed potentially coming back in that time frame as well, and their next 4 games are pretty favorable. They play the Vikings, who are having quarterback issues the next game that they are back. They play the Washington Commanders on the road, who don't look to be as strong of a team as they maybe were a season ago, and they play the New York Giants, who, while they have been a pretty hot team and they have been pretty good over the last couple of weeks, led by Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboo, they are a team that is led by rookies. They are a team with a single win on the season for a reason, and they play that team at home. Over the next 4 games, the Detroit Lions should at minimum go 2-2, if not 3-1, and they will be sitting potentially at 8-3 by the end of next month. That is a great spot to be in for the Detroit Lions. That is hopefully and potentially going to put them in first place of the NFC North if the Packers continue to play the way that they have been playing. And this is a very encouraging sign moving forward. If that is the floor that the Detroit Lions are going to play with Kelvin Shepherd, they are going to be very good. And that's exactly what we talked about in the offseason. Yes, the offense may not be as good without Ben Johnson, but you know what? They're going to be just as good, if not better, under Kelvin Shepherd. And he has showed not once, not twice, but several times this season that his defense and his play calling have been outstanding. He puts his players in positions to succeed, and the Lions are going to be very well off with a coach in Kelvin Shepherd at defensive coordinator. So with all of that being said, that is all I got for you guys today. Let me know your biggest takeaways from the game down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your opinions and thoughts. But with all of that being said, that is all I have for you guys right now. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, and as always, go Lions!